Hi, I'm Ryan Farquhar. I live in southern New Hampshire, and I've loved boats ever since I was old enough to walk. And so last year, I figured it was about time that I try building one. And after kind of reviewing some budgetary restrictions, I decided that maybe a full-size 16 or 20-foot boat wasn't a good idea. But I figured surfboard is probably about the right size. And so I spent a few months designing, researching, planning, building what you see behind me right now. The surfboard is primarily made out of pine and plywood. So I used the pine as the deck, cut into 1/4 inch by 3/4 inch wide strips. And then the ribs ended up being about 3/4 of an inch wide because of the plywood. And in hindsight, I really would have wanted to make those out of probably 1/4 inch plywood, just because it's a little more heavy than I would have liked. But I drilled a bunch of holes in my surfboard in the ribs, and so hopefully I cut down on most of the weight. And so just briefly, in order to affix the strips onto the ribs of the surfboard, I really just ended up building it like a strip canoe. I took each individual strip, put a bead of waterproof wood glue on it, and then just used a bunch of clamps and tape to affix it to the ribs and to the previous strip on the board. And so after I had my whole board covered with strips and everything, it was time to put on the artwork. And so of course I needed the sanding and fill in some holes and everything, but the artwork is really kind of my favorite part of this whole build, just because of the way that I was able to affix it to the board. So I ended up taking a kind of a clear plastic sheet, about the size of paper, and I just put that right in the printer. After spending probably maybe a week or so trying to figure out what design I wanted, I was able just to print that out straight onto the sheet, use some tape as a hinge, and then I just pressed it straight onto the surfboard. And that transferred beautifully, no touch-up needed, right onto the wood. And so after that, the surfboard was pretty much ready for fiberglass, except I kind of forgot about putting on rails, which are the rounded pieces you see on the edge of the surfboard. And there's a lot of different designs, as I've learned, that you can choose for rails. So there's 40-60 ratios, and there's all sorts of angles that you can do, but I ended up just going with a really simple half round, because it'll give me the most stable and just really the easiest type of rail to put onto the board. So I ended up just taking a couple of dowels, probably about 2.5 inches wide, cut them in half and just glued them right onto the board, with a little bit of filler here and there to help patch up my mistakes. After that, I just fiberglassed it using epoxy resin, a 4-ounce cloth, and a 6-ounce cloth. And that gave me a really nice finish on the bottom and then a nice grippy finish on the top, because I just used a slightly less amount of epoxy. And I'm very happy with the finish. I think that it could have been a little smoother, but after a little bit of sanding and buffing, it turned out great. As for why I built it, well, quite honestly, I tried out surfing when I was in Puerto Rico a little while ago, and I just absolutely loved being able to get up on a wave and just kind of feel the fluidity and just be connected to the currents of the ocean, because the ocean has just really always amazed me that way. And so when I got back, I started looking up prices and styles of surfboards, and all of the ones that were towards my budget, still crazy expensive, were just made out of composite materials and foam and had these flashy designs all over them, and I just felt that wasn't really the point of surfing. I thought that, at least for me, it was really just to connect you to the ocean and back to nature. And so I was kind of toying with the idea of, I've always wanted to try my hand at building a nice wooden fiberglass structure of some sort. So I figured, why not a surfboard? And so I started doing research and designs, and then eventually it just kind of became a reality.
Adam, this thing freaking works.
Does it actually?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick.
It's like kind of nice.
Now
Wicked well.
just stay in there for like 30 more minutes and we'll test the seal.
No, I'm actually good.
While filming this video, somebody on the street actually stopped us and was asking me about, where I got the surfboard, whether I bought it or made it. And so we got into talking, and I guess he's a pretty avid surfer. He goes to Costa Rica about every year and spends about a week just surfing down there. And he was wondering if possibly I could, build him a custom surfboard. And so we exchanged contact information, and we'll see where that leads. So I'm kind of thinking, in the future, maybe this will become a next business as I gain credibility and a yacht design degree, but we'll see where the future takes me.